My name's Ruth Asprey, a health and wellbeing coach and a menopause specialist. I also run a corporate wellbeing business, and in my spare time, I like to swim, cycle, run, do lots of endurance sports. So I like to find places to have a pee.
And I'm Lizzie. I'm a clinical specialist physio in pelvic health, run both an NHS and a private practice. Love what I do. Currently doing a lot of running, and you'll find out why in a minute. And I'm also the very proud owner of my own vaginal prolapse.
And welcome to Oops, I Peed My Pants podcast, the podcast that's here to break the silence, smash the stigma, and get real about female incontinence and pelvic floor health. So, Lizzie, we are doing a special podcast this evening, aren't we? We've got two lovely ladies, ambassadors from the Eve Appeal, the Get Lippy campaign, Anne Russell and Karen Hobbs. Oh, yeah, the Get
Got my
Lippy.
t-shirt. I love that. It's a great t-shirt.
You have been doing a great job on the campaign. So, how are you getting on?
Well, shaky start, but mainly because I was just a bit busy, and then I woke up and thought, oh, it's the 7th of May and I haven't done any running. Then I had a big
Are you
panic.
running?
I've done 21.5 kilometers in the last few days, which is a lot for me because I don't run. Um, but yeah, and I've been amazed at how hard it was I was like, I've got to do it every day, otherwise I'm going to be massively behind. But yeah, I am enjoying it. And I think the best bit about it is, I think people actually feel sorry for my skinny legs, or froobs, as my friend called them, which are so they're like really pale. Do you remember like the yogurt tubes that you suck?
I did some campaigning for Froobs.
So she was like, yeah, a bit pale and skinny,
Yeah.
straight up, straight down. Brilliant. So yeah, I actually think people are feeling sorry for my food. So I'm starting to get messages from like friends, people that you wouldn't normally
Yeah.
perhaps have contact with regularly, going, I'll come and do a run with you. So I've pretty much got somebody booked every single week, which is lovely. So I'm getting a chance to meet people I haven't seen for a while. But it's right, it is quite hard to crack on every day. And I think I did a little Facebook post.
Every other day is fine, she says, not
It
doing it.
is,
But
it
I'm
is when you're not on
supporting
catch up.
you.
I was definitely on catch up. And it was, it was hard because I thought, well, actually, I can't be bothered to run today. But then that's the point, isn't it?
Well,
It's
that's the
hard.
point. And that's when you use the Mel Robbins technique of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and get out there,
Oh, and
because
just a bit, yeah.
action becomes before motivation. We all think we're motivated to do things, but we're not really. You've got to take action.
Oh, yeah.
It's
So,
it's the way it is. So, we've got the ladies coming on in a couple of minutes. So just tell us a little bit about the campaign and why you're taking part in it this month.
so the Get Lippy campaign. So it's a campaign run by the Eve Appeal, which is a fantastic charity. And it's about raising awareness of the 5 main gynae cancers. So you've got uterine or womb cancer, ovarian cancer, vaginal cancer, cervical cancer, and vulval cancers. And it's about getting the conversation started, raising awareness. They do so much good work. They do lots of education for older people, but in schools as well as running lots of different campaigns. And they also have the most amazing telephone service, a gynae service. So if you're worried about a symptom, you're scared to go and see your GP for whatever reason, or just unsure, you can email or telephone. They've got some brilliant gynae nurses that run the service, and you can basically ask them any question, and they'll give you some brilliant information and tell you what the next steps are. So it's so important, and a bit similar to you. I think gynae cancers are quite close to my heart. I've lost my stepmom just before Christmas to ovarian cancer, and I know you've had similar things that most of us know somebody that's had a cancer of some sort. So it just happens that this, I know a couple that have had this. So, and it would have been her birthday in May as well. So I thought, well, that's quite fitting.
Fantastic.
So yeah, so the Get Lippy campaign is for her really, and for anybody else that knows somebody or has been in that situation. But it's brilliant. So yeah, so if you want to sponsor me or take part in it yourself, or just sponsor the campaign, we'll put all the links in the show notes at the bottom. It's a brilliant thing to get involved in. It's for a really good cause. And check out their website as well. We'll put all the links in.
Put all the links in the show notes.
Yeah.
So let's take a moment. We'll be back in a couple of seconds, and the ladies from the Get Lippy campaign will be on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Please be aware that this episode does make reference to some really sensitive topics that you might potentially find triggering. So, for example, sexual trauma, loss of a baby, negative experiences around vaginal examination. So if you do, it's just a small section, but still really important to mention. If you do find any of this really affects you in any way or triggers you in any way, then we'll put some resources that you can go to for help with this in the show notes below. Okay, that's your warning.
Thank you. This evening, and from the Eve Appeal, they're the ambassadors, Anne Russell and Karen Hobbs. Ladies, welcome. Thank you so much for joining our podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you.
It's lovely. I'm excited about this.
You're excited about this one, aren't you, Liz? Aren't you, Lizzie?
Yeah.
As you've been running a lot.
Yeah. Oh, crikey! I know I've got to run later after this actually. So when it's cooled down a little bit, I'm going to drag a child out with me.
Any child or your child, Lizzie? Just to
maybe
check.
just any child.
Yeah,
just my child would prefer. I just grab
pick a kid, any kid.
Well, it adds a certain spontaneity to the thing,
Yeah.
and especially if the parents object and chase after you, it's
Yeah.
you know.
Problem is, where I live in Llanberis, most of the kids are actually fitter than I am, so they'd outrun me anytime. In fact, oh, here we go. Oh, this is the child.
Hello.
She doesn't know yet, but she's going to come running with me later.
You're going for a run with your mother after this.
Have you heard the thunder? All right, quick, go and get
Is
the
that Bella?
It is Bella, yeah.
Oh, hi, Bella. Bella's joining the team. She's going to.
now.
She's joining us. She's joining
Washing Dash, I think.
the IP Pants podcast team as a social media executive. She's going to be our whiz kid.
I was just about to say, there's that tech hire we were talking about before we started recording.
That's the TikTok tech
Yeah.
hire. Anyway,
TikTok tech.
ladies, so tell us, please tell us. And I don't know who goes first. How did you get involved with the campaign? Tell us a bit about your story, please.
Anne, shall I go first if we go sort of chronologically?
That would make absolute sense.
It would make sense, wouldn't it? So I have been working with the Eve Appeal for almost a decade now, which is absolutely disgusting. Since I was sort of 12. No, I wish. So I don't know. I'm sure we were all in a similar boat, but I didn't have very much sex education at school. I wasn't really taught much about, in air quotes, down there. I didn't know anything. I knew I had a period, period came out, penis went in, because I'm a boring straight woman, and that was all I knew. I didn't know anything else about that. Don't get pregnant, you have a period and a couple of bits and pieces. And then I was diagnosed with cervical cancer when I was 24, and again didn't know anything about the cervix, let alone cervical cancer. So we'll get into the sort of personal stuff, I'm sure, as we go along. But I started talking online about it. It was back in the days when blogging was the sort of thing du jour. And I just started being very open, talking about it, because I couldn't find very many frank accounts of what it's like to be a 24-year-old with a gynae cancer. So I wanted to, basically read what I was writing, and hopefully that would help other people. And then I got involved with the Eve Appeal because the CEO, Athena, saw what I was doing online, and then I started speaking at events, and then started working for them on the helpline. That moved into the sort of outward facing talks and community outreach and sessions, etc. And one of the big external noisy things we do is the Get Lippy campaign. So it was a very organic, through personal experience, sort of being woven into what feels very much like the fabric of the charity now. And that's why I'm here. So I'm an old hat with the Eve Appeal, but I wish it wasn't. I wish it was just something I was passionate about and was interested in, rather than because I had to be involved because of a personal experience. It's always kind of weird talking about having a personal diagnosis and then being excited about various things associated with it, because it came from such a all the classic words, unfair and scary, etc., thing that happened in sort of chapter. But yeah, that is my origin story.
It's amazing you've done so much work with them. And quite often that happens, doesn't it? We naturally get involved in charities which are close to our heart.
But I'm not a charitable person, Ruth. I just need you to know that. Just because I'm collaborating, it doesn't mean that I'll do anything for charity. I've never, we were just talking before we press record. We're not natural runners as a group, are we? And just because I've had cancer, it doesn't mean I'm going to sign up to do the marathon. None of that. I'm not going to do some sort of trek to raise money. I love talking about it. I love what I do. But yeah, but no, you are quite right. There's often a sort of link of giving back in a way, because I don't know, again, we'll let Anne, you can say your own sort of reasons, speak for yourself, but I just didn't find much out there that spoke about what I was going through in the way that I wanted to be spoken to. And I felt that the Eva Peel's tone of, here's the information, we're not going to, fluff up anything and use euphemism, but this is just the facts. This is what's happening. Try and have a little bit of fun sometimes. And I feel that kind of aligns with your guys' tone as well. Yeah. Information, but with honesty and humour. I think those three things are very, very key in getting these types of messages across to people.
Yeah, I think it makes you less aloof, doesn't it? And you just want people to be able to connect and feel comfortable and ask a question. And certainly at the end of our shows, we try and put links to, like, we'll be definitely linking the Eva Peel and any other spaces that we know that people can get information from. But yeah, I think that is it, isn't it? That was the aim of our podcast, isn't it? To get people to really feel comfortable and not feel alone. And then it's breaking down that barrier, isn't it? Getting them to make that first step to ask for stuff. I think that's what we're coming around to, isn't it? We just want people to feel like they can go, and if they haven't got information, then sort of like giving them places to go, or giving them the confidence to go and ask, and
getting women to those GPs.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
First sight of trouble, getting them in there. And so a bit about your story.
I'm a very, very recent ambassador, and largely because I developed, about 2 years ago, I was diagnosed very suddenly with quite advanced endometrial cancer. Didn't know what it was at first. Out of the blue, I had symptoms, but I hadn't connected them to having cancer. That was not something that was going to ever happen to me. I was very fit, I was very active. And all of a sudden I started getting really bad pain. And within about a week of that happening, I was laying on a bed with somebody doing a vaginal ultrasound. And I just looked at her face and thought, oh, shit. And from then on, because I already had a platform on TikTok, it never occurred to me not to talk about it, because I wasn't a victim. I wasn't somebody, I didn't feel a victim. I didn't feel, oh my God, woe is me. This was the thing that was happening. I figured that if anything scary happens to you, the more information you've got, the more you know, the more involved you are, the less frightening it is. And that was something so the minute she did this isn't good. And then it got even worse. But so the way to allay that fear myself was to, be quite matter of fact. Well, I can't do anything about it. I just got to go along with it. And because I was talking about that on my TikTok account, because I just did. I don't come with filters. I just did it. And I thought, well, if I could do with the information, and it wasn't as awful as I thought it was. And that was the other thing I really wanted other women to understand, that I'd had this diagnosis and I was going through this stuff, and it was nowhere near as bad. Now, I know that experiences vary, but, when I first was diagnosed, I had a whole set of preconceived expectations, and I don't think any of them ended up being actually coming to pass. And I think that's really important. Everybody's experience varies, but the need to be absolutely terrified. And, I wasn't ever a brave warrior. and I wasn't a victim. I was just a perfectly normal person going through something vaguely shitty that happened.
And how many times have you heard someone say, "Oh, that's so brave"? Because I heard it countless times, and I'm exactly the same as you, in that I'm not brave. It's just something bad luck. It's bad luck that you got womb cancer. It's bad luck I got cervical cancer. We're not brave for getting it or getting through it.
No, there's no brave would be going up to somebody else and saying, I will have your cancer for you. But it doesn't work like that. It's just something that happens, and you don't have any choice. You do just have to deal with it.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't get a choice, do you? So, Brett, I suppose it's funny that because you think, oh, it is brave. It's really interesting listening to both of your accounts because I would sort of say, oh, it must be a lot of bravery involved, but actually, bravery is like perhaps it's something that you do through choice. You don't actually have a bloody choice, do you? You've got to get on with it.
Yeah, like what else are we supposed to do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Interesting, really interesting point of view.
You can't change it. There's nothing you can do. You've got that. What are you going to do? You've got it. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? And I think, when you have that life-changing moment, you've got to deal with it. You've got to deal with it now. And I'm just interested in that, that fear factor, because a couple of years ago, I went through the breast cancer scare, so having a call back, and I remember the fear. I mean, fortunately for me, it was okay, but the fear, and Lizzie, you see this every day, you'll see this every day, the fear that you see in women's faces, that they're there, and that, but then once you've had that decision, it's kind of like, right, we're going to have to get on with this now. There's nothing much more to do. So do you think that fear puts women off from going to the GP when they have the first sign? Do you think women are kind of thinking, oh God, I don't want to.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I do. And that's the weird thing. And a lot of the time, one of the other things that really shocked me and really made me sure that keep on filming as I went through, my hair was falling out, which to be honest, I just thought was hilariously funny. I'm so sorry. I woke up one morning and my hair came out in handfuls, and I just thought this was just really funny. It was amazing. But was that there's this idea that I can't remember what the percentage now is, but it's something, I think either 9 or 14% of women, I'd have to look it up, refuse chemotherapy for no other reason than they will lose their hair.
Wow.
Yes. So I think
Wow.
wigs should be more fashionable, but maybe that's because, if you don't have a choice, you don't want to lose your hair, do you? But yeah, I think crikey. Yeah.
And you just realize then that there's this, and weirdly, I mean, I'm not saying I didn't wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and think, oh God, I'm going to die, because I did. But actually, I found that my immediate response was much more practical. Was I don't have a will. Right, I need to write a will. Let's do this. I need to, oh God, I've got so much shit. How many pairs of jeans? My children are going to have to sort this out because I'm probably going to die. So, it was much more practical and down to earth about, right, if this thing is going to happen, I need to be practically prepared for it. And I need to organize this and I need to do that. And somehow being able to be down to earth and deal with what I could deal with meant that I didn't worry about the things because ultimately something else I did immediately do is go online and look up statistics and realize that for a start, despite these awful 5-year survivals, then I looked up what do women with stage 4 endometrial cancer die from? And actually, an awful lot of them didn't die from the cancer. They died of other things because a lot of them are quite old. So they died of things like heart failure and strokes. Now, obviously, those were, because they had cancer. And then I thought, right, okay, so I might not be here in 5 years. And then so I thought, but I'm a cyclist. I don't drive. I do drive now. I'm a cyclist. I mean, for God's sake, every morning I get on my bike and I cycle to work. And I'm worried about Oh, don't be ridiculous. There's no guarantee I would be here next week. Even if this didn't happen to me, I could be hit by a 10-ton lorry.
Yeah.
And somehow knowing that nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, the world is full of gravestones of people who got up in the morning, took a frozen lasagna out the freezer for that night, and never got home to eat it. So I just thought, I'm going to stop worrying about this. I'm just going to deal with what I have to deal with. And I'm going to let the very well-trained medical professionals that are looking after me, they can worry about the rest of it. And I'll just do what I can do. And we're going to take it from there. And I found it was a great relief. And none of it was, I'm not saying it's fun, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
You
So,
let go. You completely let go of that fear. When you're saying I'm I'm a cyclist as well, and I was where I had exactly the same thought the other day because I was going out on a group ride, and you kind of go, God, I don't know what fucking running about that for. I'm getting in a bike ride and going in a group ride now, and you realize you take those risks every day. Yet we worry about things that we shouldn't be worried about at all.
I think we need the tagline, "But I'm a cyclist," printed on t-shirts, don't we, for this series?
Yeah, I love it.
I so know what you
Yeah.
mean, Anne. I found that obviously when the doctor said, so I had there, we'll get on to obviously the symptoms in the symptom section, but I was at the point where I was in hospital and he was saying we need to wait for the results of the biopsy. It would take a couple of weeks. And I was sort of trying to push him to say,
yeah,
come on, yeah, but come on. What do you think it is? So, I was saying, but is it cancer? And he said, we've got to wait for the results of the biopsy, Karen. I said, yeah, but like, come on. Like, I'm not going to get you into trouble. I basically gave him a tenner. And he said, well, put it this way, I've been doing it for 30 years and I'd be very surprised if it wasn't cancer. And at that moment, when it was pretty likely to be, and then was, of course, that moment, I think, is maybe similar to yours, Anne, in that moment of, okay, well, now all the wheels are in motion and let's just get on with it. But the bit before, the waiting between appointments and etc., where it's this possibility was for me, we're talking about fear, I guess we're going back to your original question, was the scarier bit. And then once I knew and we were going through it, of course, I woke up in the middle of the night like Anne thinking, I don't want to die. Am I going to die? Everyone will. Everyone, we can't do anything about it. But you obviously, when it's more of a threat, an imminent threat, you worry about it more. But once it was okay, it probably is, it was more practical. And I thought, do you know what? After that, the scariest moments of my life I've realized so far are the things that you can control, not that you can't control. So the two scariest moments of my life are not that moment, are my first driving test, because it was on me if I failed or passed, right? It was up to me. It was whether I went wrong or right. And the first time I did my first stand-up set, because I had 5 minutes and it's up to me to be funny. It's up to me to pass the driving test. It's up to me to make the audience laugh. When it's cancer and you can't do anything about it, there is that sort of, I don't know what I believe in, but there is that sort of kind of surrendering yourself and just.
You offload that you
Yeah.
can't, there's no responsibility on your part. It's happened,
Yeah.
can't change anything about the treat.
No.
Totally in someone else's hands, isn't it? That's so, because I often say that to patients. I sort of say, oh, chatting, I think the waiting bit is the worst bit. I think as a human, once you've got it's this, you need a plan, don't you? So you need a diagnosis. Patients always want a diagnosis, and then it's just something tangible, and then you've got that lovely sort of well, this is going to happen, and then we're going to do that, and if that doesn't work, but yeah, it's definitely the fear of the unknown. Actually, that's
and I think uncertainty can be quite a quick pathway to madness sometimes. I think the mental health decline in people that are waiting and worrying, they don't feel poorly within themselves, but can really, working on the Ask Eve helpline of the Eve Pill for 5 and a bit years, it wasn't the people and it isn't the people that generally are, okay, I've got this surgery coming up. What does this mean statistically? It's I've got an appointment in 2 months and I don't know what it is. Those are the people that are petrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just on that, so you just mentioned there, Karen, the helpline. Can you just tell us a bit about the helpline and how that can support women?
Of course, of course. So obviously we'll put the information up at the end of the episode, etc. But there is a service called Ask Eve. It does what it says on the tin. It's a free, confidential, expert information service. So wonderful Tracy and Helen, our gynae nurses, run it. You can call or email. There's translation services if English isn't your first language with any type of gynae health query. You don't need to have cancer or almost have cancer or have a mum with cancer to get through to the helpline. If you are worried about anything, if you put your knickers on and think, oh, that smells a bit funny, email or call. If you are going through a diagnosis and waiting for your surgery and you want a bit of extra support and information, give us a call or email. Because GP appointments, we're talking about, the point of these types of conversations is to get people in as soon as possible. And if they can get themselves there, that's great. If they have to wait a few weeks, like we were just saying, the waiting and worrying can sort of cause a lot of anxiety, and that is not anything to be sniffed at. So we're that extra sort of buffer. If you come out of your GP appointment and think, oh, it was only 10 minutes and I didn't ask X, Y, Z, that's what we're there for. We're extra support and information, and yeah, we welcome any type of question.
And I'm just sort of thinking about someone that's recently popped into my sort of clinical practice who perhaps didn't, for one reason or the other, didn't go to the GP or felt like, oh, I don't want to go again, because you must get quite a bit of that. I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, this would have been perfect for them. Kind of go, oh,
Yeah, I think
blah, blah, blah.
sometimes people that call and email sometimes want us to say, after they've explained, why they're getting in touch, I think they want us to say, oh, that's nothing to worry about. Yeah, no, I wouldn't go to the GP if I were you. Don't worry about it. There's a reason you've called or emailed a gynae cancer helpline, isn't there? And so I can't remember when I was running the service ever saying, oh, I wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
And look, most of the time, all of the symptoms for all the gynae cancers, they're all much more likely to be something less serious. But none of us, whether medical, public facing, ambassador, whoever we are, wouldn't be doing our job, whatever that job is, properly if we just said, don't bother, don't speak up, don't ask. And we never want, the thing is, it's about striking the balance between empowering and encouraging people to go to their doctor and informing them, but also not worrying them unnecessarily, because most of the people aren't going to have cancer that contact us concerned about symptoms. But 60 people are diagnosed every day in the UK with a gynae cancer. So go. We're never going to say don't go. And a GP would rather say you don't have cervical cancer than you do have cervical cancer.
I was just about to say that, certainly I've got, just where I live, I happen to have lots of friends that are GPs, and I can't think of any that, like, they love the job. Yes, it's got its stresses. I think they would be horrified if somebody felt like they were bothering the GP. So yeah, I'm forever saying to people, just go. And on that note as well, probably I'll go, well, not off script, but maybe out of order, is cervical screening. How many ladies come to my clinic because they don't want to. I mean, let's face it, it's not on my list. It's not on my bucket list of things to do, ladies. Oh, got my and in fact, I'm so happy that I don't have a cervical screen now for 5 years. After my HPV competition with my nurse, I'm not really sure what that was all about. That's really funny. Said it. Oh, you're too old. You didn't have the vaccine, Lizzie. You'll be back in 3 years. And I was like, no, won't, no, won't. And then
No, won't.
Yeah. That's like, I don't even know what that's all about, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah, watch my immune system fight it off. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it was quite funny. So but yeah, so many ladies, oh yeah, they're not really fancying that, not really. And I just think, oh my word. And I know maybe a percentage of those have perhaps had negative experiences, I think. So I've certainly used your tool that you've got for healthcare professionals, and it's really nice, actually. I'm just going to be quite smug about this. I think, oh yeah, I do that. That's really, it is lovely and validating, isn't it, to reassure people about that. But yeah, you must see quite a lot of people that don't like going for smears, or it's very
Just on that, Lizzie, what's the tool that you're referring to?
So they've got some brilliant tools on there. So if you have to have a good mooch around the web page, there's lots of tools for healthcare professionals. So specifically, there's oh gosh, my postmenopausal brain's gone. What's the one with check with me first? Check me first. Check with me first.
Yeah. So depending on what sort of topic it is, but we've got various top tip sheets on our evapil.org.uk website for patients again, air quotes, because somebody might not be an actual patient, but you know, the non-medical professional and the doctor. And it's anything and everything from, you know, because not everybody knows what each person is going to come through the door and say to them as a doctor, right? So it might not occur, I'm sure it would occur to lots of doctors, but it might not occur to every doctor to you know, check if somebody wants to insert the speculum themselves. So we did some work with the Survivors Trust, who work with, don't know if you need to put a trigger warning on this bit, but the Survivors Trust, who work with people who are survivors of sexual assault, rape, violence, etc. And yeah, we put some tips for people going to their appointments and for the professionals seeing them. And it does include, like I just said, things like inserting the speculum yourself or asking if you want to, because for a lot of people who've been through that type of horrific experience, there's the sort of control element to it. So you putting the speculum in yourself isn't giving control to that medical professional, and that's something that can help people, for example. But yeah, sometimes when you just hear people say, you know, it's never patient blaming, but I can't be bothered to go for my screening, or I'll be fine, it doesn't matter. I understand life's busy, you know, and they might, you know, be too busy. We don't know what's going on in someone's lives, so I don't mean to be flippant about that type of issue as a reason for not attending, but it saves lives. We know it works. It's the only one of the gynae cancers with a screening program. But yeah, there's many reasons why someone might not attend, but when someone kind of just doesn't want to or can't be bothered, I think, you know, it's no one's fault, but if you just knew how beneficial and life-saving it could be. And it's always when it's too late that someone says, I wish I had done X, Y, Z, right?
Yeah. So go on, Ruth, what are you going to say?
No, I mean, that's such a important point, and I hadn't really considered that before, because I had a full disclaimer, you know, I lost a baby and had a really uncomfortable internal examination. I mean, I won't go into the details now, but that actually did put me off my smear test for a number of years.
Of course it did. Of course it did. You've gone through something horrific personally, and I'm so sorry.
Then about that, I
Yeah.
completely get that women who've suffered, and we will put a disclaimer before all this,
Yeah.
and you know, women who've suffered from that or had, you know, sexual assault by a traumatic birth, I completely understand why they would not want to go.
You've been through something so
something that's so personal, it's traumatic.
traumatic, yeah.
It's huge. So I wonder, that must be huge.
Do see it quite a lot. So in our sort of question, we'll always ask, because obviously we're really nosy and ask all sorts of questions, but part of it's gynae health. And we'll always say, you know, are you up to date with your smears? When was your last one? And that's a lovely intro of, oh no, I'm not up to date. Oh, is there any reason why you're not up to date? And we sort of go on for there. And it's not uncommon, at all.
And the link between the sort of the mental and emotional and the physical, like Ruth, I'm really sorry you went through that. Really, really sorry. And it's a personal and emotional thing that's happened to you, but it's also happened to your body, not just your heart and your mind, right? And everything is connected, and
everything is connected. Yeah, I mean, last year I spent, you know, I'm a therapeutic coach now, so I've done trauma-based coaching because of this. So I get it, you know, the trauma, the body holds the score. And, you know, when you think now, and also I coach women as well in health and well-being, and, you know, and once you've gone through that and you go through the trauma-based coaching, the therapeutic coaching, you then start to see women's emotional state in such a different light. You know, this is why I'm so anti-fitness, the anti-fitness industry, you know, making the last woman needs to be told is to do a burpee or to go on a run or whatever. But yeah,
which Anne and I are not doing, as you know. We're not doing it.
I mean, you could have a whole you could actually have a, you know, that's a big that's a whole podcast in itself, isn't it, about how trauma impacts women's ability, not ability, but women making that step over the line. And maybe, Lizzie, that's something that we have to explore, I think, because it's quite a big topic, I think. Big topic. So thank you for that honesty and openness. I mean, it's great that we're having these conversations.
Really interesting.
you know, how a woman keeps healthy and well-being into later life, the more we can open up and have these, the more then, you know, a woman has more agency over her own health and well-being. And I'm a huge advocate for that.
But,
So I'm just
oh,
time, sorry.
yeah, no, so I was going to tick back to I think it was you, Karen, that was saying about sex education that was virtually non-existent. I'm not entirely sure
Sorry.
how brilliant it is these days either. Yeah, so you do quite a lot of education in schools as well, that maybe not you personally, but there is the Eve appeal. I was looking, they do some and they've got plenty of resources online for teachers and, you know, so on to use. And I think that's where it starts, isn't it? We've got to, I mean, obviously it's aiming for everybody, but we've really got to start educating people.
Because if you know whatever it is we're talking, if you know X at a young age, when X becomes relevant when you're older, you're going to be more open to adhering or attending or informing or investigating if X is going wrong, whatever we're talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of, I was just looking at some of the questions that we've got. So in terms of that, for anybody who's listening that was feeling quite nervous or ashamed about symptom or pop onto symptoms, what would you say to help them take the first step to getting checked out with the GP? What kind of things are you saying to people online?
First of all, the fact that someone, I'm sure you'll agree, Anne, the fact that when you first, like I was kind of saying, to kind of go back to the very, very beginning, you don't always know if something's a symptom, right? So you could have whatever it is, the bleeding, the pain, whatever, but unless you know, and it's no one's fault that they don't know because no one's told them, unless you know that that pain is because of, or could be because of a cancer, a gynae cancer, you know, vaginal cancer, for example, you're not going to go to the doctor for that weird twinge and be concerned about vaginal cancer. So first of all, if they find us and want to speak to us, the first thing is like, well done to them, and never in a patronizing way, but well done for kind of putting the links together and working out that this could be something you need investigating, because that's huge. Because most people, because we're not taught it, don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. And I'll keep saying the phrase don't know forever, and it will just be the most, I'll start, you know, feeling like I can't speak anymore because I've said it too many times. The second thing is that I know it can be so difficult and embarrassing, or again, many different barriers and many different reasons people feel certain ways about gynae healthcare, but we absolutely promise that the doctor has, it's the classic, seen it all before, that you are not going to have the first vulval lump that the doctor has ever seen. You're not going to have the first foul-smelling discharge that the doctor has ever seen. We promise that. But then we do know, and we have to acknowledge that people do have negative experiences when they go to the doctor sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. And then that can set people back. So it's a very sort of delicate situation. But keep a record of your symptoms. So when you go to the doctor, if you're able to, you are armed with what's happened to you and what you're concerned about. But yeah, the first thing is to just acknowledge that the fact that they're even considering this or considering an appointment or wanting to make an appointment is a massive achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, something that I think, again, and it's circling round to the name of the podcast, is I think a lot of women we're told about, you know, some symptoms of cancer. And then there are other symptoms. I had them. I mean, I was exhausted, but I just thought I needed a holiday. I was really tired. I was working really long
That's
hours.
also relevant, Anne.
But, you know, I just didn't. But I mean, it was an exceptional tiredness, but it creeps up on you. But the other thing, and I think it's worth saying, I started peeing myself. Now, since I was diagnosed, two other women that I know quite well have also then gone, oh, because you go to the doctor. I didn't because I was I mean, I kept meaning to, but you know, I was busy and I did my pelvic floor exercise. It didn't make any bloody difference, mind. Every time I bent over, I wet myself. Every time I tried to pick up a heavy weight, I wet myself. But you know, I do that because I knew if I went to the doctor, I thought I knew, and said, I'm having a real problem, the first thing they'd do is hand me some Kegel weights and say, sort that out. But, and now I know, and my God, it's so obvious. If you have a large mass in your pelvis and you bend over, something's got to give, and a bladder full of urine is the thing that's going to give, which
Yeah.
it did. But I know two other women who had very similar experiences, who did go to their doctor, who had a look and went, "You've got fibroids, completely benign," and immediately utterly sorted with a hysterectomy, and a stent maybe in the urethra to because that had been crushed. But you hear all these things about, oh, are you bleeding? Are you doing this and that and the other? But there are other, well, you probably aren't wetting yourself because you've got cancer. It might be it might be hormonal, which is just about dealable with. It might be your pelvic floor is a bit knackered. That can be helped, but it could be cancer. It could be you've got a large amount. It could be an enormous fibroid.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because of the fact that we're always, I mean, from childhood, oh, you know, it's dirty, it's unclean. There is a huge level of shame about wetting yourself that
Mm.
really almost goes above. Incontinence of any description is something that people really don't want to talk about, whether it's urinary incontinence or fecal incontinence. Men get that with prostate cancer.
Yeah.
They become fecally incontinent and they are so embarrassed that they hide it and are worried and frightened about going to give that to the doctor. And sure, that the doctor's probably going to say, well, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably this. But if it continues, they will investigate.
Yeah.
And the chances are it can be dealt with. If it's fibroids, they can give you a hysterectomy and it goes away. And that's the last you have to worry about it. In my case, it was cancer. But they still took it away. And guess what? Although I'm still a little uncertain at times, I can bend down and pick up heavy weights. And guess what? I don't wet myself.
Yeah.
Was that a sudden onset for you then, Anne? Was that a
No,
new symptom? So it was a gradual.
it was a gradual, I mean, it started during COVID.
That was
And
that.
my son said, "You drink far too much coffee, mother." And I thought, fair. Switched to decaf and it improved massively. And I thought, oh God, I hate the fact he's right, but that's fine. But it didn't go away completely. And then it gradually started ramping up again. And I just kept thinking, I really need to go and see the doctor. But you know what? I'll make sure I do my pelvic floor exercises. I did all these TikTok groups about, knowing your floors. And, my pelvic floor, as far as I could tell, was really in quite good shape. But I still kept wetting myself. And especially when I bent over or picked up a heavy weight, and there was absolutely no controlling it, which was really embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, I know I need to go to the doctor about this, and then I thought, well, I don't know, maybe there's an incontinence clinic near me. Maybe they would be more, without having spoken to the doctor or even knowing his reaction, I just kind of thought, well, perhaps I'd go to an incontinence clinic, but there wasn't one. Um,
What was your misgiving, Anne, about going? What have you ever sort of thought? What was it that stopped me going to the GP at that point? What was the prolonged? Was it like a nervousness, or because you're not, or did you think, oh, it'll be fine, or just quite
I
interested in that?
think what I was doing was second guessing the GP. I think that what I was doing was second guessing the GP. I was really busy. I mean, I was working, I was leaving for work at kind of 8 o'clock in the morning and I wasn't getting back till 5:30. And GP appointments have been really difficult to get. So
Yeah.
in my head, the scenario would go, I would go to the GP and they would say, you are a woman of 59, 58, 59. You've had 4 children. I know you're quite fit, but your pelvic floor probably needs work. Give me a little sheet of exercises, and I would do the exercises because I knew I could do the exercises and nothing would happen. And then I would go back and they would look, I was on HRT, and they would look at my HRT and maybe fiddle around with my HRT. And I was already doing that. So I just thought, well, I can't see the point of my going to my GP because I know what they are going to do, and I am already independently doing that. maybe I should find an incontinence clinic, because perhaps they will be more open to the idea that I have already done these basic steps. But of course, there wasn't one, and I was really busy. And, you know, mentioning the fact that you pee yourself every time you bend over isn't the kind of look you're going for. And then, of course, one day I woke up and I had really bad, what felt like period cramps and bleeding. And I thought, oh, that's not right.
Yeah.
Within a week, it had got, you know, and that at that point. But of course, as soon as they said you have this huge mass in your pelvis, kind of all of a sudden, I just thought, well, that's blatantly obviously why that's happening then, isn't it? You know, it was so obvious once I knew, but I didn't.
Yeah, it's such a generic symptom though, isn't it? I mean, I see lots of ladies that, leak and I think that's what fascinates me. So I suppose thinking about that then, Anne, or Karen, or both of you, what are the main sort of signs of cancer that we're sort of saying to ladies that we need to look out for? And it's going to vary, isn't it, depending on the type
Yeah, it was fatigue. I mean, the fatigue that I have always tended to be a bit knackered. But it crept up. The problem with a lot of the symptoms, I think, is that they creep up so slowly that you don't really notice how much they've crept up on you until it's too late. You don't, over a course of a year, I went from being, I've always been early to bed. I'm sorry, I like to be in bed by 8:30, 9:00. I just do.
8:30.
I'm sorry, if I can go to bed at 7:00, I'm a happy bunny.
What time are you getting up?
6. I mean, I usually start waking about 5 and lay in bed, and the dog and I have a cuddle. Like, she comes under the covers, we have a cuddle. But
I'd be in bed. I'm a half 8 o'clock person as well.
What time are you having your dinners if you're in bed at 8:00?
About now. Yeah, but I've been like that since I was a teenager. I've always been like that. But then it got to the point where I was coming home from work and I was going to bed at 6:30, 7.
Right.
But I wasn't just going to bed at 6:30, 7. I was out like a light by 8:00.
Wow, yeah.
And I was waking up and I was so tired. I had no energy. I couldn't drag myself upstairs. And I just kept thinking, oh God, I need a holiday. I really need a holiday. I'm still cycling 8 miles a day. I'm a cleaner. I do a physical job. And it crept up on me and I didn't really notice. But I think the symptom that you get will, like you said, it will vary from person to person.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily things that are very obvious. I didn't have any pain. I didn't have any bleeding. I just became increasingly exhausted and increasingly incontinent. And it was only at the very last, when finally it broke through my cervix and I had pain and bleeding, that the minute that happened, I'm like, okay, that's not good. I need to go to the GP. Did, and it was really quick from then on in. And I think a lot of women do. You have these vague symptoms, and they're also, maybe I needed a few, maybe I needed some vitamin B, or maybe some vitamin D, or a holiday, or it's also nebulous. You don't like to go.
And you can explain it away, can't you?
Yeah.
And we've been conditioned into this, this kind of like, oh, I'm just too busy, I'm too tired, I'm too busy to take. I hear it I had a conversation today with a friend who's like, oh, well, women are too busy to do X, Y, and Z. When you've got family, you've got to putting these needs, putting other people's needs before their own, which I get, but it's just, I think the conversation needs to change. The conversation needs to change about putting yourself first and making time for your health and well-being checkup.
But and there are, oh yeah, carry on, go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to, it's also connected, because of course the minute I did have a diagnosis and I realized it was absolutely serious, the very first thing that came to me is, oh shit, am I going to outlive the dog? What's going to happen to the dog if I die first? What's going to happen? I live with two of my children. We house share. They're not going to manage the rent on their own. Bugger, what's going to happen? I need to. So my immediate thought was, how is not just this family unit in this house, but I have two other children. How will my family cope if I am dead? Because at the moment I am quite involved in all of their lives. They're not going to handle it. I need to set it up so they are all independent enough that they will. So actually, whether your children are, as mine, fully adult, or whether they're 2 or 3, the most important thing in caring for your family is making sure that you are there
Yeah.
to care for them. Because if not, what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say this to the ladies that I coach: you're giving everything. I call it the glass. I use the glass. I go, look, you're doing that, that, and then there's only that much. You've only left that much for yourself. I said, but what if that self isn't there? What's going to happen to all of this?
Yeah.
Flip it. And the amount, the number of women that I say that to, go flip it. We've got and I think it's especially, you get your 40s, your 50s, when you're going through that hormonal disruption, and it's so important that women put their own health and well-being first. So you are there, and so I completely get what you're saying. Ladies, look, I'm just really super conscious of time, and I'm going to get the feeling that we could probably talk all night.
Oh yeah.
Because in our true spirit of Oops, I Peed My Pants podcast, what's the most, I don't like saying embarrassing, because it's not embarrassing, is it?
Outrageous.
Most, and without, if you don't mind, and you can say no to this, but the most unexpected place. Where have you been caught out, basically?
I think you need to clarify that. Having a wee.
Having a wee, yeah.
What do you mean, guys?
What kind of show is this, Ruth?
Mine's always Tesco's car park, and annual, probably because I do so much. I'm gonna, go off into the hills. I'm always looking for a place to get off my bike and pee. It's a regular kind of regular.
You get always found by a Labrador. I've noticed that if you have a pee in the wild, there's a Spaniel or a Labrador who is always very keen to come and join you. Not yours, just a random one appears.
Mine is accidentally, I would like to preface, accidentally my handbag.
Handbag.
So I was walking from I was going to a train station. I needed a wee, and so I stopped on a quiet residential road near the train station, and I put my handbag down and had a little sort of wee, kind of like to the sort of by the sort of curb between cars, had a wee. We've all been there. That's not the bit that hang on. And then realised I'd weed into my handbag because it was a very slopey road, and I put my handbag to my right, which is going downhill. And the sort of handbags that don't have much structure, they're kind of just fabric, and you plop them down and then they're sort of open once they're down. So I'd sort of weed onto all of my things.
Going out?
No, I was going home.
Oh, you were going home?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I turned up to the pub with a bag of piss or not. The fact is, I weed on my handbag and my things. But thank you for making me clarify. I respect that.
Yeah.
Well, where were you going?
Yeah, you're going out.
What did you do next? Yeah, but you probably couldn't do that again if you tried. You'd probably completely miss, wouldn't you? If you actually
it's one of those. Ha 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 ha! It happened. I had to rinse everything. I couldn't recreate it.
Absolutely brilliant.
Lizzie, any more from your side?
I saw it. Oh, God,
Training. How many miles?
Oh, right, the running. Yeah. So I'm up to. I did have a bit of a shaky start. Or I will share this with you because I often socialise, but I'm not a massive drinker. So I did find myself drinking quite aptly. I've discovered a drink called the fanny frother, which would.
Oh goodness!
I know, it was for how lovely. So I had a couple of social evenings. So one of them drinking fanny frothers, and which were, just to clarify, it's, what was it? Vodka and Baileys and a little bit of whipped cream on the top.
Oh,
And do you know, it was quite nice. It was quite nice.
okay.
So yeah, I'd had a couple of social nights out, and so I had a bit of a late start. So I've done 21.5k, which I think is probably further
That's
than I've
That's
in,
huge.
in sort of like maybe like a few days in a row. It is huge. It's actually
That's
really,
amazing. Why are you downplaying this? That's incredible.
it's right. Yeah, my calves were a bit, so I did an insurance walk yesterday for my wedding anniversary walk. It was lovely. So I did a little 5k run. So yeah, I thought now I've got to do maybe three runs a week, I think. And I've got various people booked for every Great, because I hate running I mean, I hate running, let's face it. I absolutely hate running. It's a terrible sport. I don't know why anybody does it. I have no desire to do any kind of ultra marathon, or hats off to anyone that does, because I get halfway through the train and think, no, I do not want to run today, so I'm just not going to run. So yeah, bizarrely, it's quite hard. But then I was like, I think that's the point, isn't it? It's not meant to be easy.
No,
So
it's a challenge.
yeah.
It's a
So,
challenge.
yeah, so I'm going out tonight with said child, who probably will complain, but there we go. And then I've got my lovely friend Emma, and I've already been out with a couple of physios and my lovely friend. So yeah,
And then
get
we're doing an event, then we're doing something with Mr. Peaver.
yeah, I think So Mr. Beaver does a 5k your way. So again, it's a move against cancer. So hopefully, I think they do it last Thursday of every month. So going to join him. He doesn't know that yet either, but he will. I want to see him at work.
Oh.
And yeah, so it is really good actually.
You're
But
all very inspirational, but I think because Anne and I have had cancer, we don't have to run for
no, absolutely.
we can step out of it.
I'm not
You-
running. I'm
No,
sorry.
we're
I
not
tried
doing it, are
running.
we, Anne? We're not, we don't
Running
want
and me
to.
are not friends. I tried it. I couldn't do it. That's it. No, not doing running.
Well, absolutely fantastic campaign. Ladies, thank you so much, Anne and Karen, for coming. It's been amazing to hear your experiences, and thank you for all the work that you're doing to raise awareness. It's brilliant. So
That's amazing. Absolutely. What a cracking resource.
Thank you for having us.
We'll do a follow-up, but yeah.
Quick,
Sure.
may I just say so?
Yeah.
Do you think quickly, can I just read out the main symptoms of the 5 gynae cancers?
Oh yes, please do.
Is that okay?
Please do, yeah.
So we'll wedge it in when, well, look at me trying to take over. I'm not Bella, I'm not the tech person.
Go for it.
So if we just slip in when Anne was talking about the symptoms, and then I'll just say, all of the 5 gynae cancer symptoms are more likely to be something less serious. There are key symptoms which I'll list in a second, but just because incontinence, apart from with ovarian cancer, isn't really linked to the others in the most common symptoms, that obviously doesn't mean that people should ignore it. And the most important thing for Anne is that, Anne, you experienced something that wasn't normal for you, and now in hindsight, the pieces are being put together. But the main symptoms, so we'll just go through them quickly. So abnormal vaginal bleeding, so bleeding from your vagina when you as an individual aren't expecting to, are key signs of womb, cervical and vaginal cancer. So abnormal bleeding could be, again, if it's not normal for you, bleeding between periods, bleeding after sex, after the menopause, bleeding that's much heavier than what's normal for you if you're still having your periods. With regards to cervical and vaginal cancer as well, we'd add in any unusual discharge, and any changes to discharge, any unpleasant smelling discharge, pain during sex, a pelvic vaginal pain, and then if you're having an examination inside your vagina, if you're able to check your vagina inside, feeling a lump that is new for you, or a vaginal itch up inside that won't go away. Vulval cancer, so the vulva is the area between the legs of people who are born female, and that's everything from the mons pubis, where your pubic hair grows, right down to the perineum and the anus. So all of that area, it's not just the labia. Some people call them the lips or the flaps, not just the labia. So changes to the vulva. So that could be a lasting itch, persistent itch, pain or soreness. The skin has become thickened, raised, redder, darker, lighter, depending on your skin tone. Sore areas or growths, changes to any moles, lumps or bumps that are unusual, tenderness when touching your vulva. Again, if you're able to look and check your vulva, you'll notice something changes. And then ovarian cancer is the one that has the symptoms that are kind of the least vaginary or gynae. So it's not about, sort of a vulva and bleeding. It's things like persistent bloating. So not bloating that comes and goes. If you've been bloated persistently for 3 weeks or more, please speak to your doctor. It won't be a surprise that it's often misdiagnosed as something more gastrointestinal, IBS, etc. And it's not likely to be ovarian cancer, but still it's worth speaking to your doctor about. Pelvic and abdominal pain, changes in bowel habits. So know what your sort of toilet habits and schedule is, if there is such a thing as a toilet schedule. So it could be constipation and or diarrhea that are the changes. It's not one size fits all. Difficulty eating, which is always a weird one when we think about gynae stuff. But if you're feeling full more quickly, or you're feeling sick when you're trying to eat, that's something. You're not able to eat as much as you normally would. That's something to look out for. And ending on I feel like the main note for this podcast is needing to wee more regularly, more often. If you're suddenly weeing loads more and it's not because you're deciding to, right, I'm going to start drinking 3 litres of water a day, that's a change. It probably isn't a gynae cancer, but we 100% know from this conversation that it absolutely could be.
Yeah, thank you. And we can find those resources on the Eve Appeal webpage, can't we?
Yeah, so eveappeal.org.uk, Eve Appeal at Eve Appeal on social media. We constantly, especially in months of May, Get Lippy, put out much more information. But yeah, lots of information, lots of different types of resources on website and social media platforms.
Brilliant.
Thank you for that. Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. We'll put that in. We'll edit that in and then we'll put this in separate.
Of course, yeah. However, whatever order, whatever you want to do. But yeah.
Again, ladies, thank you, Anne. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
so much. So lovely to meet you and see you again, Anne. Thank you.
It's absolutely glorious. Thank you very much, ladies.
Go and have your dinner now, all of you.
Oh, well, that was just fabulous.
Oh yeah, weren't they amazing? I absolutely loved them. Absolutely brilliant. Lovely pair of ladies. It's a lot of fun.
Great conversation, so much. So we've got a lot to share, lots of information in the show notes below. The 5 symptoms that that Karen went through, super important for women to be aware of. So I will edit that and create a separate video for our community on that as well. So there's a little shorter video on that. But anything else that we need to highlight at this point, Lizzie?
No, just like you said, we'll put all the links in the show notes. And I think that the message, isn't it, from both of them is, if there's just knowing your own body, knowing your symptoms, if you're not sure and you're worried about wasting your GP's time, go and ask Eve. Go to the webpage. We've got a cracking service there. We'll put all the links in the show notes. But yeah, the message is clear, isn't it? Don't be embarrassed. You better safe than sorry. Go to your GP or healthcare professional about any symptoms you're concerned about.
Yes, absolutely. So, ladies, thank you for listening. I hope you found that useful. We'll put everything in the show notes below. Please subscribe, join our Facebook group, which will be, I know we keep saying that, but it is going to be launched this week. We've got 2 new members joining the team.
Yeah.
Let's break the silence, 1 laugh and 1 leak at a time. Thank you. Thank you